Captain Kang Dae-ho wiped the sweat from his forehead as he looked at the computer screens on his ship's bridge. A mining operation had been long and hard, but successful. His crew had worked for 6 months in the cold darkness of space, breaking apart asteroids and collecting precious metals. Now they were finally going home to Earth. The ship Cheongsa was not pretty to look at. It was a working vessel, built for mining, not for comfort. Its hull was scratched and dented from years of hard work. But it was strong and reliable. Just like the 4 people who called it home. Park, So-min sat at her engineering station, checking the ship's engines one more time. She had been with Dae-ho for 8 years, and he trusted her completely. Her small hands moved quickly over the controls, making sure everything was working perfectly for their journey home. "Engine looks good, Captain," she said in her calm voice. "We can start the jump to Earth whenever you're ready." Lee Tae-won stood near the weapons console, even though they rarely needed weapons in their line of work. He was a big man with strong arms, useful for the heavy lifting that mining required. But he had served in the Earth Defense Force before joining the crew, and old habits died hard. Kim Ha-na, their navigator, was the youngest of the group at only 25 years old. She had joined them 2 years ago, fresh from the Space Navigation Academy. Her job was to guide them safely through the dangerous paths between stars. "Setting course for Earth, Captain," Hana said, her fingers dancing over the navigation controls. "We should be home in 3 days." Dae-ho nodded and settled into his captain's chair. He was 52 years old and had been working in space for most of his adult life. Earth was calling him home, and he was ready to see the blue skies and green forests again. But as they prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel, Hana frowned at her screens. "Captain, I'm getting some strange readings from the Earth system," she said. "There's a lot of energy activity near our home planet." Dae-ho leaned forward. "What kind of activity?" "I'm not sure. It looks like there are many ships there. Very large ships." So-min looked up from her station. "Maybe it's a military exercise. The Defense Force sometimes does big training missions." Tae-won shook his head. "Not like this. I've never seen energy signatures this strong. These aren't human ships." The 4 crew members looked at each other with growing worry. In all their years of space travel, they had never encountered alien life. Earth scientists had always said it was possible, but no one had ever made contact. "Let's jump to the edge of the system," Dae-ho decided. "We'll take a look before we get too close." The Cheongsa made its jump through space, covering vast distances in seconds. When they came out of faster-than-light travel, they were still far from Earth, but close enough to see what was happening. What they saw made their blood turn cold. Hundreds of alien ships surrounded Earth like angry wasps around a nest. The ships were unlike anything humans had ever built. They looked like they were made of crystal and metal, and they glowed with a strange purple light. But the most terrible thing was what they were doing to Earth. Massive beams of energy shot down from the alien ships to the planet's surface. Where the beams touched, everything simply disappeared. Not destroyed or burned, but completely gone, as if it had never existed at all. "Oh no," So-min whispered, her hand covering her mouth. "They're killing our world." Dae-ho's hands gripped. His chair so hard, his knuckles turned white. He watched helplessly as continents vanished under the alien beams. Asia, where his parents had been born. Europe, where So-min's sister lived. North America, where Tae-won's children went to school. Hana was crying now, tears floating in the zero gravity of the ship. "Captain, I'm picking up emergency broadcasts. From Earth, the government is telling everyone to evacuate, but there isn't time. There are 12 billion people down there." The alien ships worked with terrible efficiency. They had clearly planned this attack carefully. Some ships targeted the major cities, while others focused on the military bases. Still others aimed at the spaceports, making sure no one could escape. "Who are they?" Taewon asked, his voice full of anger. "Why are they doing this?" Daeho had no answer. He could only watch as his home world died before his eyes. Then they heard a broadcast on the emergency frequency. It was not in any human language, but their ship's computer quickly translated it. "People of the world called Earth," the alien voice said, cold and emotionless. "You have been judged by the Veltar Dominion. Your species is too chaotic and unpredictable. You threaten the peace and order of the galaxy. Therefore, you must be removed completely." The message continued, explaining that the aliens had been watching humanity for many years. They had seen the wars, the violence, the pollution. They had decided that humans were too dangerous to be allowed to spread to other worlds. "Your erasure will be quick," the voice said. "You will simply stop existing. This is more merciful than you deserve." So Min was shaking with rage. Merciful? They're murdering billions of innocent people. But the aliens didn't care about mercy or innocence. They only cared about their twisted idea of galactic peace. For 6 hours, the crew of the Chonza watched their world die. They saw the great cities disappear. They saw the oceans turn to nothing. They saw the forests and mountains fade away like they were never there. Other human ships tried to fight back, but their weapons had no effect on the alien vessels. The crystal ships seemed to absorb the energy and become stronger. Some civilian ships managed to escape Earth's gravity, but the aliens hunted them down mercilessly. Every ship that tried to run was caught and erased, just like the planet below. Finally, after what felt like forever, it was over. Earth was gone, completely gone. Where their beautiful blue and green world had been, there was now only empty space. 12 billion people had lived on Earth that morning. Now they were all dead, erased from existence, as if they had never been born. The 4 survivors sat in their small mining ship, staring at the place where their home used to be. They couldn't speak. They couldn't think. The shock was too great. Veltar ships began to leave, their terrible work complete. Soon the solar system was empty except for the sun and the other planets. Earth had been removed from the universe, but the aliens had made one mistake. They thought they had killed all humans. They thought their job was finished. They were wrong. Deep in space, hidden among the asteroids and gas clouds, a few thousand humans had survived. Mining ships like the Cheongsa, deep space research stations, military patrols on the far edges of human territory. The aliens thought they had ended the human story. Instead, they had just begun a new chapter. A chapter written in darkness and fury, in the cold emptiness between the stars. The survivors would remember. They would never forget what had been done to them. And someday, somehow, they would make the Veltar pay for every single life they had stolen. 5 years had passed since Earth died, and Commander Yoon-ji Woo still woke up every morning expecting to see her home planet outside her window. Instead, she saw only the cold metal walls of the generation ship Haniel floating in the darkness. Between stars, the Haniel had once been a colony ship built to carry families to new worlds. Now it was home to 8,000 survivors, all that remained of the Seoul evacuation fleet. They had been lucky to escape when the Veltar came, but luck could only carry them so far. Yachi Wu walked through the ship's corridors, checking on her. People, children who had never seen a real sky, played in the recycled air. Adults worked at jobs that kept the ship running, but their eyes held a sadness that never went away. Everyone had lost someone on Earth. Everyone carried the weight of survival. In the command center, her tactical officer Choi Min-ho was studying data on his screens. He looked up when she entered, his young face serious. "Commander, we've received another report from the Barum," he said. Captain Shin's team hit another Veltar supply convoy yesterday. Ji Woo nodded. Captain Shin Young-sik commanded one of the few military vessels that had survived Earth's destruction. His stealth frigate Baram specialized in quick strikes against alien targets. "Any losses?" she asked. "None on our side. But the interesting thing is what happened after the attack." The Veltar sent a priority message to their command fleet. Our science officer, Bei Su-jin, has been working on translating it. Bei Su-jin looked up from her workstation, pushing her glasses up her nose. She had been a university professor before the war, teaching alien linguistics. Now she spent her days trying to understand their enemies. "The message is fascinating, Commander," Su-jin said. The Veltar convoy commander reported being attacked by vengeful spirits from the dead world. He claimed the human ships appeared from nowhere, struck without warning, and vanished like ghosts. Ji Woo felt a cold smile cross her face. "Ghosts. Are we?" "It gets better," Minho added. "This is the 15th similar report we've intercepted in the past month. The Veltar are starting to believe that Earth's dead are hunting them." The truth was simpler, but just as frightening for the aliens. The surviving humans had learned to use Veltar technology against them. Every wreck they found, every piece of alien equipment they could salvage, they studied and improved upon. Dr. Bei Su-jin had made the breakthrough 6 months ago. She discovered that Veltar ships used a form of energy signature that could be copied. Human vessels equipped with the right technology could make themselves appear as background radiation. To alien sensors. "Show me the latest intelligence reports." Ji Woo ordered. Minho activated the main display, showing a map of known Veltar territory. Red dots marked their military bases, while blue dots showed recent human attacks. Admiral Jang Mi-kyung's battle group hit 3 targets this week, Minho explained. Her heavy cruiser Newell destroyed a Veltar research station near the Centauri system. The aliens never saw them coming. Ji Woo studied the pattern of attacks. The surviving humans had scattered across the galaxy, but they stayed in contact through hidden communication networks. Every few days, another Veltar target would disappear without explanation. "The aliens are getting nervous," Su-jin reported. "We've intercepted communications showing their increasing security at their main bases. Some commanders are requesting transfers away from areas where human spirits have been seen." "What about other species?" Ji Woo asked. "Have the Veltar attacked anyone else?" Su-jin's expression grew dark. "That's what I wanted to show you, Commander. We've discovered something terrible." She activated a new display showing galactic history over the past century. 17 different star systems were marked with black symbols. "The Veltar didn't just destroy Earth," Su-jin explained. "We found records of 16 other species that simply vanished from the galaxy. All of them were erased using the same technology that killed our world." The command center fell silent. The humans had thought their suffering was unique, but now they learned they were just the latest victims in a pattern of genocide. "The Veltar call it galactic cleansing," Su-jin continued. "They find species they consider too dangerous or chaotic, and they erase them completely. According to their records, they've been doing this for over 300 years. Ji Woo felt her anger growing. The Veltar weren't just murderers of humanity. They were the killers of entire civilizations, destroyers of countless worlds and cultures. "But there's something different about us," Minho said. "All the other species they erased were completely wiped out. We're the first to survive their cleansing and fight back. That's why they're so afraid," Su-jin added. "In their minds, the dead don't come back. They don't hunt their killers. We're something new and terrifying to them." Ji Woo looked at the intelligence reports again. Human survivor groups were spread across dozens of star systems, each one a small but deadly threat to Veltar operations. They struck without warning and disappeared like smoke, earning them the nickname of ghosts and spirits among their enemies. Commander, Minho said, I've been analyzing the Veltar communication networks. I think I know how we can coordinate a larger operation. He showed her a complex diagram of alien communication relays. If we could take out their main relay station in the Vega system, we could blind them to human movements in this entire sector of the galaxy. How many ships would we need? Ji Woo asked. At least 12 attack vessels, plus support ships. But the real problem is timing. We'd need to coordinate with the other survivor fleets. Ji Woo thought carefully. The human survivors had been fighting as individual groups, striking when and where they could. But maybe it was time to think bigger. Send a coded message to all survivor commanders, she ordered. Tell them we're calling a meeting of the fleet leaders. It's time we started working together. Over the next few weeks, representatives from the scattered human fleets began arriving at a secret meeting point in an abandoned star system. They came in ships both large and small, military vessels and converted civilian craft. All that remained of humanity's once great space fleet. Captain Shin Young-sik arrived in his stealth frigate, battle-scarred but still deadly. Admiral Zhang. Mi Kyung brought her heavy cruiser, its hull painted with the names of destroyed Veltar ships. A dozen other commanders represented smaller groups of survivors. The meeting took place aboard the Haniel, in a conference room they had once been, used for planning peaceful colony missions. Now it hosted discussions of war and revenge. We've all been fighting the same enemy, Ji Woo addressed the assembled commanders, but we've been fighting alone. The Veltar think we're just random ghost attacks, scattered spirits with no organization. Maybe. That's for the best, Captain Shin said. They underestimate us because they think we're just desperate survivors. But we could do so much more together, Admiral Zhang argued. My battle group destroyed 3 Veltar facilities last month, but imagine what we could accomplish with coordinated strikes across multiple systems. Dr. Su Jin presented her research to the group, showing them the full extent of Veltar genocide. The alien empire had been systematically erasing species for centuries, always using the same methods, always succeeding completely. Until now, she concluded, we're the first species to survive their cleansing. We're the first to fight back. In their own communications, they're calling us the impossible ones, the dead who won't stay dead. The fleet commanders looked at each other, seeing the same determination in every face. They had all lost everything to the Veltar. Family, friends, entire worlds full of memories and dreams. What do you propose? Admiral Zhang asked. Ji Woo stood and activated the star map. We make them pay for every world they've destroyed. We hit them so hard and so often that they realized their greatest mistake wasn't just destroying Earth. Their greatest mistake was leaving some of us alive. The meeting lasted 3 days, as the survivors planned their new strategy. They would continue to appear as random ghost attacks, but now their strikes would be coordinated. When the Veltar moved forces to defend one area, humans would attack somewhere else. Most importantly, they would spread the legend of the vengeful spirits. Every Veltar soldier who survived a human attack would carry tales of the impossible. Enemy, the dead race that refused to stay dead. As the fleet commanders prepared to return to their ships, Ji Woo felt something she hadn't experienced since Earth's destruction. Hope. Not hope for peace or safety, but hope for revenge. The Veltar had tried to erase humanity from existence. Instead, they had created something new and terrible. They had created a species of ghosts, bound together by loss and fury, dedicated to hunting their killers across the galaxy. The war was just beginning. 20 years had passed since Earth's death, and Dr. Ru Hei-won still remembered the smell of rain on her childhood home's garden. She carried that memory with her as she worked in the research vessel Sarang, floating in the darkness between. Stars where no Veltar scanner could find them. The Sarang had once been a luxury passenger liner, built to carry tourists to exotic worlds. Now its elegant dining halls had been converted into laboratories, its observation decks filled with quantum computers and energy analysis equipment. Hei-Won looked up from her microscope as her assistant, Engineer Oh Dong-min, entered the lab. His face was excited, which meant he had discovered something important. "Doctor, you need to see this," he said, holding up a small crystal fragment. This piece came from the Veltar ship that attacked the mining colony at Kepler to 442. Look at the energy readings. Hei-Won took the crystal and placed it under her quantum scanner. The readings made her heart race. These energy patterns, they're not just storing power, they're storing something else. Her colleague, Dr. Song De-jin, looked up from her own workstation. As their team's quantum physicist, she understood the strange science behind Veltar technology better than anyone. "What kind of storage?" De-jin asked, moving closer to examine the data. "Memory storage," Hei-Won whispered, "but not data or information. This crystal is storing the quantum signatures of destroyed matter." The three scientists stared at each other as the meaning became clear. For 20 years, they had assumed that when the Veltar erased something, it was gone forever. But now they were discovering that the alien technology didn't actually destroy matter. It moved it somewhere else. "Show me the readings from the Earth fragments we collected." Hei-Won ordered Dong-min brought up the data from pieces of Veltar technology found in Earth's old solar system. The quantum signatures were incredibly complex, but one pattern stood out clearly. "There," the Jinn pointed at the screen. "Those energy patterns match Earth's quantum signature exactly. The pieces of our world aren't destroyed. They're stored in dimensional space, compressed into these crystals." One sat down heavily in her chair. The implications were staggering. "You're saying that Earth still exists? Just in a different dimension?" "Not just Earth," Dong-min said, his excitement growing. "If we're right, then all 17 worlds the Veltar erased are still there, waiting to be brought back." The research team worked for days, analyzing every piece of Veltar technology they could find. Each crystal told the same story. The aliens weren't destroyers in the traditional sense. They were collectors, storing entire worlds in compressed dimensional space. But why would they do such a thing? The answer came from intercepted Veltar communications. Dr. Song De-jin had been monitoring their military networks for months, looking for any mention of their erasure technology. "I found something," she announced during their daily briefing. The Veltar call their erasure weapon the Preservation Protocol. They believe they're saving civilizations by storing them safely away from the chaos of normal space. "Saving them?" Hei-Won asked in disbelief. "They murdered billions of people. From their perspective, those people still exist, just in a peaceful, ordered state where they can't cause trouble," the Jinn explained. "The Veltar see themselves as galactic librarians, preserving dangerous species for future study." The twisted logic made Hei-Won sick. The aliens had convinced themselves that genocide was actually a form of mercy, that erasing entire civilizations was somehow saving them. But if the erased worlds still existed in dimensional storage, then maybe they could be brought back. The research team began working on the most ambitious project in human history. They called it the Resurrection Protocol, a system designed to reverse the Veltar erasure process and restore compressed dimensions to normal space. The work was incredibly dangerous. Every experiment risked attracting Veltar attention, and the energy requirements were enormous. The Sarang had to move constantly, never staying in one location for more than a few days. Meanwhile, the human ghost fleets continued their war against the Veltar Empire. Fleet Admiral Ka Jiao-ji commanded the largest battle group from his dreadnought Taiguk, a massive warship built from salvaged alien technology. KO's forces had become legends throughout the galaxy. They appeared without warning to attack Veltar supply lines and research stations, then vanished before reinforcements could arrive. The aliens had begun calling them the Undying, because no matter how many human ships they destroyed, more always appeared to take their place. The truth was that human survivors had learned to hide in places the Veltar couldn't imagine. Asteroid fields, gas giant storms, the spaces between dimensions where their sensors couldn't penetrate. Every hiding place became a base for planning new attacks. Dr. Hay-1 received regular reports from the fleet commanders, but her focus remained on the Resurrection Protocol. If they could bring back the erased worlds, they could restore not just Earth, but all 16 other civilizations the Veltar had destroyed. The breakthrough came from studying Veltar power systems. The Jinn discovered that their erasure technology required enormous amounts of energy to maintain the dimensional storage. That energy came from a network of quantum reactors spread across their empire. Look at this. The Jinn showed her colleagues the power grid analysis. The Veltar have built their entire civilization around maintaining the dimensional storage. Every reactor, every power station, they're all connected to the same network. Which means, Dong Min said, understanding immediately, if we could overload their power grid, we might be able to reverse the storage process. Hay-1 studied the data carefully. The Veltar power network was incredibly well defended, but it had one weakness. The central control nexus was located on their capital world, protected by the largest fleet in their empire. We'd need every human ship in the galaxy to even attempt an assault on their capital, she said. And even then, the chances of success would be tiny. But as reports came in from the ghost fleets, Hay-1 began to realize that humans had become something the Veltar had never faced before. They weren't just survivors anymore. They were a species transformed by loss and vengeance, adapted to live and fight in the spaces between worlds. Captain Nam In-su's stealth carrier, Chiao Myong, had perfected the art of dimensional warfare, phasing in and out of normal space to strike at impossible targets. Commander Anbo Ora's Special Forces team aboard Yuna specialized in rescue missions, appearing to save alien civilians when Veltar cleansing fleets attacked. The galaxy had begun to tell stories about the human ghosts. They spoke of dead warriors who protected the innocent and punished the wicked. They whispered about ships that could travel through dimensions, about soldiers who could not be killed because they were already dead. Dr. Hay-1 realized that humanity had become more than just survivors. They had become a myth, a legend that spread fear through Veltar ranks and hope through the hearts of their victims. But myths could become reality, especially when backed by quantum physics and human determination. She called a meeting of all the senior researchers and fleet commanders. The gathering took place in the Sarang's converted ballroom, where crystal chandeliers had been replaced by holographic displays showing the Veltar power network. We have two choices, Hay-1 addressed the group. We can continue fighting as ghosts, striking at their supply lines and outposts forever. Or we can attempt something that has never been done before. She activated the main display, showing the Veltar capital world and its massive defensive fleet. We can bring back the dead, all of them. Every world, every civilization the Veltar have erased can be restored to normal space. But it will require coordinating every human ship in the galaxy for a single desperate assault. Fleet Admiral Ko leaned forward. What are our chances of success? Honestly, very small. The Veltar capital is the most heavily defended location in the galaxy. We'd be fighting not just their military forces, but their entire way of life. But if we succeed? Asked Captain Nam. Dr. Hay-1 smiled for the first time in 20 years. If we succeed, we don't just get revenge for Earth's destruction. We restore 17 civilizations to life. We turn the Veltar-esque greatest weapon against them and prove that death itself cannot stop the human spirit. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't just planning a military operation. They were planning to resurrect the dead and rewrite the history of the galaxy. Outside the ship's windows, the stars waited in their ancient patterns, unchanged by the wars and genocides of younger species. But if the humans succeeded, those stars would soon shine on worlds that had been dark for decades, on peoples who had been given up for dead. The greatest challenge in human history was about to begin. 30 years had passed since Earth's death, and Captain Nan In-Su no longer remembered what real sunlight felt like. He had spent 3 decades in the artificial light of starships, hunting the aliens who had murdered his world, his stealth carrier. Cheongmyong hung in the shadow of a gas giant's rings, invisible to Veltar sensors. The ship was a masterpiece of human engineering, built from stolen alien technology and powered by pure hatred for their enemies. "Captain, we have 3 targets in range," reported his tactical officer from the bridge. 2 supply convoys and a research vessel. In-Su studied the tactical display. The Veltar ships moved in formation, confident in their safety. They had no idea that death itself was watching them from the darkness. "Signal the other ships," In-Su ordered. "We hit all 3 targets simultaneously. Make it look like coincidence, not coordination." The Cheongmyong was not alone in its hunt. Across 3 star systems, human ghost fleets were preparing identical attacks. To the Veltar, it would seem like random strikes by desperate survivors. They would never suspect the truth, that humanity had become a galactic network of vengeance. Coordinated and deadly. Commander An Baira received the signal aboard her Special Forces vessel Yuna. Her ship was smaller than In-Su's carrier, but designed for the most dangerous missions. Her team specialized in rescue operations, saving alien civilians when Veltar cleansing fleets attacked. "Ma'am, we have a priority target," her intelligence officer reported. "Veltar cleansing fleet is moving toward the Rigel system. They're planning to erase the Zephyrian civilization." Ra felt her jaw tighten. The Zephyrians were a peaceful species of artists and philosophers. They had never harmed anyone, but the Veltar considered their chaotic creativity to be dangerous. "How long do we have?" she asked. 6 hours before the Veltar reached Zephyrian space. Their planet has no defenses and no way to evacuate everyone. In time, Ba'ura looked at her team of Special Forces soldiers. They were the best fighters humanity had produced, trained to operate in zero gravity, hostile atmospheres, and dimensional flux. Most importantly, they shared her absolute refusal to let innocent people die. "Plot a course for Rigel," she ordered. "We're going to give the Zephyrians a miracle." Meanwhile, Vice Admiral Seo Kyung-ho commanded his Phantom Fleet from the flagship Mugongwa. His ships were the most advanced in the human arsenal, capable of phasing between dimensions at will. The Veltar had learned to fear these vessels above all others, because they could appear anywhere without warning. Kyung-ho's mission was different from the others. While his colleagues focused on direct attacks and rescue operations, he hunted for the most valuable target of all, information about the Veltar dimensional nexus. Dr. Ru Hei-1 had completed her research aboard the science vessel Jibang. The quantum resonance device was ready, a machine capable of reversing the Veltar erasure process. But it required precise targeting data about their dimensional storage network. "Admiral," Hei-1 contacted Kyung-ho through their encrypted channel, "I need you to find their Nexus Control Center. Without the exact quantum coordinates, the resonance device won't work." Kyung-ho studied the intelligence reports from his spy network. Human survivors had infiltrated Veltar society in ways their enemies never suspected. Some worked as maintenance crews on alien ships, Others had learned to mimic Veltar appearance and behavior. "I have a lead," he replied. "Our agents report unusual energy signatures from a facility in the Vega Nebula. It's heavily guarded, which suggests it's important." "That could be it," High One said. "But we'll need to get inside to confirm." "Can your people handle a stealth insertion?" Kyung-ho smiled grimly. His phantom ships had become legendary for their ability to appear inside enemy defenses. "Leave that to us, Doctor." As the human operations began across the galaxy, the Veltar found themselves facing their worst nightmare. The extinct humans were not only still alive, but had become something unprecedented, a species that existed between dimensions, striking. From the spaces between reality, Captain Nam In-su's attack on the supply convoys was swift and brutal. His ships materialized from dimensional flux, destroyed their targets, and vanished before the Veltar could react. To alien sensors, it looked like the ships had simply exploded for no reason. Similar attacks occurred simultaneously in dozens of other systems. Veltar commanders found themselves reporting the same impossible story. Human ghosts appearing from nowhere, striking without warning, then disappearing like they had never existed. Commander Anbio Ray's rescue of the Zephyrians became the stuff of legend. Her ships appeared in orbit around the alien world, just as the Veltar cleansing fleet arrived. In a battle that lasted only minutes, her forces destroyed the entire enemy fleet while evacuating the planet's population to safety. The Zephyrians would later tell stories about the angels of the dead world, mysterious saviors who appeared when all hope was lost. The tale spread throughout the galaxy, carried by traders and refugees who had witnessed similar rescues. But the most important mission belonged to Hongd, Vice Admiral Seo Kyung-ho. His phantom fleet infiltrated the Vega Nebula facility, phasing through its dimensional shields like they didn't exist. What they found inside confirmed Dr. Haywan's theories. The facility was a massive quantum computer, managing the dimensional storage of all 17 erased civilizations. Every world, every person, every memory from the destroyed species was compressed and stored in crystalline matrix arrays. "It's all here," Kyung-ho reported to the science team. "Earth, the Zephyrian homeworld, all of them. They're stored like files in a computer, waiting to be accessed." Haywan felt tears in her eyes as she received the data. Her parents, her brother, her childhood friends, they were all still there, locked away in dimensional space, but not truly dead. "Can you get me the control codes?" she asked. "Already downloading," Kyung-ho replied. "But we've triggered their security systems. Every Veltar ship in the sector is heading this way." A phantom fleet fought a running battle as they escaped the nebula, their ships phasing in and out of normal space to avoid enemy fire. They lost 2 vessels, but the data they carried was worth any price. With the Nexus control codes, Dr. Hay-1 could finally complete the resurrection protocol. But activating it would require a power source as large as the Veltar Dimensional network itself. "We need to take their capital world," she announced to the assembled human commanders. "It's the only way to generate enough energy to reverse the erasure process." Fleet Admiral Ko Jae-sung studied the tactical data from his dreadnought Taeguk. The Veltar capital was protected by the largest fleet in the galaxy, weapons that could destroy entire solar systems, and dimensional defenses that had never been breached. "How many ships can we gather?" he asked. The answer came from across the galaxy as human commanders reported their strength. 30 years of hiding and building had created a fleet larger than anyone had imagined. Thousands of ships, from massive carriers to tiny fighter craft, all crewed by survivors who had never forgotten their murdered world. But the humans had something more valuable than ships or weapons. They had become a legend that terrified their enemies and inspired their allies. The galaxy whispered stories about the species that couldn't be killed, the dead who refused to stay dead. The Veltar think they erased us from history, Admiral. KO addressed his fleet commanders. They think we're just a bad memory, a problem they solved 30 years ago. They're about to learn that humans don't just survive genocide. We turn it into our greatest strength. As the human fleet began to gather for the largest military operation in galactic history, other species watched with amazement. The humans had done something impossible. They had survived complete erasure and turned themselves into galactic legends. But legends, as the Veltar were about to discover, could become very real when backed by quantum physics and human fury. The final battle was coming, and with it, the chance to resurrect not just Earth, but every world the Veltar had ever erased. The dead were about to return to life, and their killers would face judgment from the species they thought they had destroyed. In the depths of space, 17 compressed civilizations waited in their crystalline prisons, dreaming of the day they would see stars again. That day was coming soon. Supreme Commander Lim Wu-jin stood on the bridge of his command ship Egukka, watching as thousands of human vessels emerged from quantum stealth around him. For 30 years, these ships had hidden in the darkness between stars. Now they gathered for the greatest battle in galactic history. The sight took his breath away. Massive carriers built from salvaged alien technology floated alongside. Tiny fighter craft held together with determination and spare parts. Military dreadnoughts sailed next to converted civilian vessels, crewed by families who had never forgotten their murdered world. Every ship carried the same message painted on its hull in the ancient script of Earth. We remember. All fleet commanders. Report ready, announced his communication officer. Every human ship in the galaxy is here. Wu Jin nodded grimly. They had spent months coordinating this operation, calling in every favor, every hidden ally, every survivor who still drew breath. The assembled fleet represented everything humanity had left. Captain Park Sang-min piloted his ship carrying it, the head of the Vanguard fleet. His vessels were equipped with the most advanced phasing technology, able to slip through dimensional barriers like ghosts passing through walls. Vanguard fleet standing by, he reported. We're ready to begin. The penetration assault. In the rear of the formation, Dr. Ru Hee-won supervised the final preparations of her quantum resonance device aboard the science vessel Jibong. The machine filled the ship's entire cargo bay, a complex array of crystals and energy projectors that could reverse the Veltar erasure process. Resonance device is online, she reported. But remember, I need at least 30 minutes of stable power connection to the Veltar dimensional network. If we lose power before then, the process will fail and we'll never get another chance. Ahead of them lay the Veltar capital system, protected by defensive fleets that had never known defeat. The alien homeworld glowed with the energy of their dimensional storage network, the power source that maintained the prisons of 17 erased civilizations. Admiral Kao Jae-sung coordinated the battle plan from his dreadnought, Taeguk, his tactical. Display showed the positions of every human ship and every enemy target. Phase 1 begins in 60 seconds, he announced. Vanguard fleet will create dimensional breaches in their outer defenses. Main fleet will follow through and establish a corridor to the planet. Science team will connect to their power grid and activate the resonance device. The plan was desperate and dangerous. They had to fight through the largest defensive fleet in the galaxy, penetrate planetary shields that had never been breached, and hold their position long enough to complete a process that had never been attempted. But they were fighting for more than victory. They were fighting to bring back the dead. All ships, Supreme Commander Wu Jin spoke into his communicator, his voice carrying to every human vessel in the fleet. 30 years ago, they tried to erase us from existence. They thought they could murder our world and forget we ever lived. Today, we prove them wrong. Today, The dead returned to judge their killers. The battle began with Captain Park's vanguard fleet phasing directly into the heart of the Veltar defenses. His ships appeared like ghosts inside the enemy formation, their weapons blazing before the aliens could react. The Veltar had prepared for many types of attack, but they had never faced an enemy that could materialize inside their own ships. Park's fighters phased through hull plating and fired from within enemy vessels, turning the aliens' greatest advantage, their superior numbers, into chaos and confusion. Dimensional breaches confirmed, Park reported as his ships carved holes in the Veltar defensive grid. Main fleet, you have a path. Admiral Ko's battle fleet surged forward through the gaps, their weapons targeting the alien command ships. The humans had studied Veltar tactics for 30 years, learning their weaknesses and blind spots. But the aliens were not helpless. Their ships began firing reality distortion weapons, trying to trap the human vessels in dimensional prisons. Several human ships disappeared into twisted space, their crews lost between dimensions. Hold formation, Ko ordered. Don't let them separate us. Science team, how much longer do you need? Dr. Hay-1's vessel was racing toward the planet's surface, protected by an escort of human fighters. We need to reach the dimensional nexus at the planet's core. That's where the power grid connects to their storage network. The Jibang descended through layers of planetary defense, its escorts fighting off alien interceptors. The ship's hull glowed red from atmospheric entry as it plunged toward the Veltar capital city. Above them, the space battle raged with increasing fury. The Veltar had committed their entire fleet to stopping the human assault, but they couldn't understand how their enemies kept appearing in impossible locations. Vice Admiral Seo Kyung-ho's Phantom Fleet materialized inside the planetary atmosphere, his ships phasing through the ground itself to attack the underground power stations. His forces struck at the foundation of Veltar civilization, disrupting the energy network that maintained their dimensional storage. Power grid destabilizing, reported the Veltar Central Command. Multiple breaches in the dimensional matrix. The storage network is failing. But that was exactly what the humans wanted. As the alien power grid destabilized, it created access points that Dr. Hay-1 could use to connect her resonance device. The Jibang crashed through the roof of the Central Nexus facility, its emergency systems keeping the crew alive as they deployed their equipment. Hay-1 worked frantically to connect the quantum resonance device to the alien power network. Connection established, she announced. Beginning resonance activation. I need 30 minutes of uninterrupted power. The Veltar threw everything they had at the facility, trying to stop the humans before they could complete their impossible mission. But the building was defended by Captain Park's best fighters, their ships phasing in and out of solid matter. To intercept enemy attacks, as the resonance device powered up, something extraordinary began to happen. The dimensional barriers that imprisoned 17 civilizations started to weaken. Space itself began to shimmer as compressed realities prepared to expand back to normal dimensions. It's working, Hay-1 whispered, watching her instruments. With amazement, the storage matrices are reversing. The compressed dimensions are expanding. Around the Veltar capital world, impossible lights began to appear in space. First one, then dozens, then hundreds of glowing points where nothing should exist. The lights grew larger, taking shape as entire worlds materialized from dimensional storage. Earth appeared first, its blue oceans and green continents exactly as they had been 30 years ago. Then came the other erased worlds, each one returning to reality with all its people and cultures intact. But the returning worlds weren't empty. As they phased back into normal space, their populations awakened from dimensional storage. 12 billion humans on Earth opened their eyes to find that only moments had passed since their world's destruction. To them, no time had elapsed at all. The same awakening occurred on all 17 restored worlds. Entire civilizations that had been extinct for decades suddenly found themselves alive again, with no memory of the years they had spent in dimensional prison. Supreme Commander Wu Jin watched from his command ship as Earth took its place among the stars once more. "This is humanity," he broadcast on all galactic frequencies. "We were never gone. We were never forgotten. And we never forgive those who try to erase entire civilizations from existence." The Veltar fleet found themselves facing not just the human survivors, but the restored defense forces of 17 different worlds. Earth's orbital platforms came online, their weapon systems targeting the alien ships that had destroyed them 30 years earlier. But the humans weren't interested in simple revenge. As the battle continued, Commander Anbu Ora's rescue ships began evacuating Veltar civilians from their dying world. Even in victory, humanity remembered the difference between soldiers and innocents. "Stand down," Wu Jin ordered the Veltar fleet. "Your empire is finished. Your dimensional storage network is destroyed. Surrender now, and we'll show you the mercy you never showed us." Some Veltar commanders chose to surrender. Others fought to the end, unable to accept that their victims had somehow returned from death itself. But the outcome was inevitable. The species they claimed to bring galactic order had been defeated by the very chaos they tried to eliminate. As the battle ended, Captain Kong Dai-ho, now an old man of 82, stood in the observation deck of a human hospital ship. Through the windows, he could see Earth hanging in space like a blue and white jewel, exactly as it had looked when he was young. His granddaughter, born in the refugee fleets during the long exile, pressed her face against the glass with wonder. She had heard stories about the legendary homeworld, but seeing it with her own eyes was magical. "Grandfather," she asked, "is it really our world? The one the bad aliens destroyed?" Kang Dae-ho smiled and put his hand on her shoulder. "Yes, little one. It's Earth. It's home. And no one will ever take it away from us again." Around the restored solar system, the human fleet took up defensive positions. They had learned hard lessons during their 30 years of exile. Never again would they be caught unprepared. Never again would they trust that other species would leave them in peace. But they had also learned